Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where every day we explore how technology is transforming lives, businesses, and indeed our world. And for those reasons alone, today's guest is the perfect fit. Her name is Selina Suarez, and she's the Executive Director at PepUp Tech, a non-profit organisation dedicated to increasing the number of underrepresented people in the tech industry. And more than 17 million Americans alone have filed unemployment claims as a direct result of economic uncertainty caused by COVID-19. And yes, that is in the US, but that problem is right across the world. But PepUp Tech sees this as an opportunity to invest in skills, training, and drive more talent into the growing Salesforce ecosystem where, let's face it, there is a huge demand for Salesforce skills that is outstripping the number of people that have the adequate skills to take those roles. So, PepUp Tech is offering free virtual Salesforce skills training programs designed to provide skill advancement opportunities to any individual whose employment prospects have been negatively affected due to COVID-19, as well as members of underserved communities. Selina is an inspirational change maker who is helping to increase diversity in the tech industry and also giving anyone a shot at a career in tech. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Florida, where Selina Suarez, Executive Director at PepUp Tech, is waiting to speak with us now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Selina Suarez. Thanks for having me on your show. I am the executive director of an organization called PepUp Tech. And PepUp Tech was created to help diversify the tech industry.
Fantastic. And can you tell me a little bit more about how at PepUp Tech you're actually moving communities forward by enabling people to empower people up through technology? Because I think it's such a fantastic and inspirational thing and so needed right now, especially considering the current climate. And I think we all need a bit of hope.
That's right. We started PepUp Tech back in 2016. The idea around the organization was really to provide equity for people who came from underrepresented backgrounds in tech. So we're talking about women, minorities, people of color, LGBTQ groups, and other populations that were underrepresented in tech. So we first started thinking about what were the challenges that were preventing more specifically like people of color and underrepresented groups from entering the tech industry. And we were looking at where we could kind of plug some of those deficiencies so that we can, help prop up that pipeline of candidates into the tech industry. And we really started out at its most basic level, looking at what were those barriers. And a lot of it revolved around training, the cost of training, the cost of certification. A big part of it was know-how, right? So like making sure that people understood where the opportunities were and how they could break into those industries. And then most importantly, because of course we're teaching the hard skills, we're teaching them the actual technology and the platform and how to build. But the more important part was really that network piece, right? A lot of people from the communities that we serve, they may not come from a background where, there are lots of folks working in tech or people working in, certain type of professional roles. So that access and exposure to the people who would kind of give them a leg up in the next step of their career was really important. And it became a crux of how we decided to design our program over time.
And inequality and lack of diversity across the tech industry is something that has been ongoing for years. I love the fact that you're tackling it head on and really making a difference. But I've got to ask, what was the story behind PepUp Tech? And can you remember the inspiration there?
Oh, yeah, of course. I come from New York City. That's where our organization was started. But I was born and raised in New York City. I lived in Brooklyn in a community called Coney Island. Everybody knows Coney Island, the rides, and it's a lot of fun. And Easter, the season opens, and everybody floods down to the shore and has a great time at Coney Island. But many people don't know, like right to the south of Coney Island it's probably about 30 or 40 blocks long, but it's a very, very, very low income, poor area. And it's where I spent some of my childhood and early teen years. And moving to Coney Island was a significant point in my life. I was the oldest of, at the time, there were 8 of us, but we're now 12. My mom has 12 children. We spent time in and out of foster care. We grew up in extremely poor neighborhoods all over New York City and eventually ended up in Coney Island. And so one of the things that I would say is like I was always a very good student. So even though I had like this very challenging home life, I did very well in school and I moved around a lot. I didn't attend like one school for many years. I think the longest I was ever at one school from K to 12 was for 2 years in the 5th and 6th grade. And I met, a teacher when I was in the 5th grade who encouraged me to apply to a gifted and talented school in Brooklyn. It was very well known, still is very well known at the time. And I ended up going to that school. And I was only there for a year because I ended up back in the foster care system and they moved me to the other side of the city. And I couldn't physically get to the school anymore. But that 1 year really was a life-changing experience for me because I got the opportunity to get a top-notch education and be around people who really were the future change makers. And that exposure made me think about, how unfortunate it is that everybody in my community didn't get that chance. An interesting fact is I lived in a building that was literally 4 blocks from this gifted and talented school. And I was the only one in the whole time that I lived in Coney Island, in that building, in that set of projects that went to that school. And it's like, how can we have such an amazing, incredible school in a community and every single person that goes to that school is bused from outside of our community, right? So we had no access to that school, which meant that all of my friends and people that I hung out with, they went to the subpar school where the dropout rate was really high, where there were no textbooks in the classroom, et cetera. So I spent my days with these privileged children. And then I went home and spent my summers and my afternoons and my evenings with everyone from my community. And I started to understand what the disparity was in education, right? So this education inequality is rife in New York City, right? There are people who get to go to the great schools based on, the block you live on. And then everyone else is just zoned to whatever school is in their neighborhood, whether or not they have a strong chance of graduating with the skills that they need to go on and, make a career for themselves. So that experience really is what the first thing I said to myself is when I make it and one day when I'm, established, I want to come back to my community and I want to be a network for other people. I had friends who lived in Coney Island who were dropouts in the 6th grade and the 7th grade, never finished middle school, never went to high school. And they were people that I loved and cared about. So the empathy was already there, right? I wanted more for the people in my community. I believed that they could do more. I just understood that they didn't have the same opportunities that I did. And so when I went to, high school, I was really, I was part of student council president. I was a student council president and part of my student leadership group. And, I went to Washington, D.C. and I spoke about inequality and how we need to fix education. And all of those experiences had a really strong impact on me. When I went to high school, I ended up moving to Harlem. And that's when I first learned about Malcolm X. And, there was so much power in the African-American community and the Black community and the Hispanic community in Spanish Harlem and New York City. During the time that I lived there, I started to learn more about like social movements and how we can bring education back into our communities and how do we, take on that individual responsibility to give back to your community. And I was really influenced by all those conversations that were happening and all that innovation that was happening in Harlem. And eventually, I went to college and I graduated. I got my MBA and I went to go work for this organization that was run by Ann Tisch, who's a member of the Tisch family in New York City. So they are huge education benefactors. They donate tons of money to alleviate education inequality in New York City. And when I went to go work for Ann at the Student Leadership Network, my role, I was reporting directly to their CEO, but my role was really to help them think about how to track that data over time. I started to really understand that, part of the solution to understanding and addressing income and education and racial inequality is to be able to have the numbers and the data to tell that story, right? So my career pivoted into tech at that point. So I kind of went from activism to tech, back to activism. So that tech piece, for me, I knew that the having the numbers and having the data was power, right? It was going to give me the momentum and the resources that I needed to push forward on initiatives and make sure that I could highlight for my community why it was important for them to be involved. And so all of those experiences led me into the Salesforce industry. Like I ended up working for Ann Tish. I was building a database on Salesforce, and the database I was building was tracking low-income minority students in urban New York City and their path to college and then through college. So we were looking at a lot of metrics, right? Like, which students made it to college, how long did they stay, did they complete 1 year, 2 year? We're looking at persistence, we were looking at transfers ups and downs, we were looking at majors, who was graduating, what kind of income they were making upon graduation. So we were analyzing lots of data points and then using that data to fundraise and tell our story and get people behind that movement that Ann had started in New York City. So that work in Salesforce, I started getting more entrenched in the numbers and the reports and all of the supports that organizations put into communities of color or high poverty communities and what works. We started to get a good idea of what are the things that were working and what wasn't working and how do we, bring more resources around the things that are working. And, that application that I built for that organization ended up becoming a popular application. Many different other schools started to sign up to use that application because there were other organizations like the Ann Tish Foundation that was looking to track student outcomes. They wanted to know, all of the money and the time and the resources that we're investing in these programs, are they having an impact? People really wanted to answer these questions. It was something that was really desirable for organizations at that time. So I started to package that application that I built up into an app. Eventually, a startup organization approached me about acquiring the app and helping me develop it into an application that can be sold in the marketplace. And, long story short, I ended up at Salesforce because Salesforce learned about my work in education, how I was building these education apps, and they were launching the education cloud for K-12 at the time. They had already had a strong footprint in higher ed, data tracking and applications, and we're really looking to build a footprint in that K-12 space. So I went to go work for Salesforce. At the same time I went to go work for Salesforce, I started PepUp Tech because I saw the power in how I came from a low-income community with very little opportunities and very little options. I got into the tech industry, became, sought after for my work, for my ideas, for, the applications that I was building, and people really wanted to know more. And I thought, wouldn't this be amazing if we gave other people like myself that same opportunity, right? The opportunity to design their own products and bring those wonderful ideas that they may have to the table and, land a career in a sustainable industry, an industry that's growing, that has a strong inclination to weather any downturns in the economy. There are so many great reasons to be a part of the tech industry, right? Lots of jobs, there's, innovation, just a lot of things that a person from a low income background could absorb and then benefit themselves, their family members, and then their community. And so PepUp Tech was born out of this idea that there is a potential in so many individuals out there, but there's no blueprint, no pathway, right? I graduated from college in 1998. Well, I started college, in 1998. I graduated in 2009, and I didn't land into the tech industry until 12 years after I started college. That's a long time, right? And
yeah.
And it's because I just didn't have any connections into tech. I didn't even know tech was something that I could have done. I had no idea that the tech industry was a great fit for me because I just didn't know about it, right? And so we said, how many other people out there can be ready to change the world and do magnificent things, and we don't know where they are, right? And they don't know about us, we don't know about them. How can we go back into these communities and start to change things? And that's exactly what we did. We started to, in the very early years in 2016, we got a couple women together. We said, let's go do some nonprofits workshops talking about Salesforce and career pathing and why diversity in tech is important. That eventually grew into a 4-day workshop, which eventually grew into what we have today, which is our online virtual academy. This past year, we've landed 130 people into paid roles into the Salesforce ecosystem. The average starting salary of people coming into our program is just $11,800. And we're talking about people with college degrees. We have students with college degrees that are earning minimum wage. You know, they're talented. They just have zero pathway and zero network to really see the true potential of what they could be. And that's where we come in. So we teach them the technology. We're teaching them the hardware. We're helping them get certified, right? We're teaching them all those skills that they need so that they can become a certified administrator or developer on the Salesforce platform. And then we're offering them workforce placement services. So we're connecting them directly into our network. So we're out there talking to corporations and we're talking to people in the community, and we're that facilitator that's bringing it all together.
Such a powerful and inspirational story there. And I love how, at the end of it all, you've become a huge change maker yourself, which it's phenomenal. It really is. But then, of course, we've got the global pandemic that came along that's caused even more problems. And I think in the US alone, there's more than 17 million Americans that have filed unemployment claims as a direct result of the economic uncertainty caused by COVID-19. But can you tell me a little bit more about how you're actually turning that challenge into an opportunity and increasing the number of underrepresented people inside technology or the tech industry?
Yeah, so the global pandemic and everyone going virtual was new for the world, right? But not new for PepUp Tech, right? We're in the tech industry. We've been online since day one. So there wasn't this whole, we have to shift to online, or, how are we going to now run our programs when we're now all virtual? Because we had already been virtual for 4 years. So we had that setup already ready to go. So we received shutdown orders here in Florida on March 15th. And within 2 weeks, we had put in a special budget and a special strategic plan in place while this new reality for all of us was occurring. And so what we looked at was, what kind of programs are we running? How long is it taking people to get through the program? And how can we support all of these new people who are now unemployed, furloughed, maybe they're finishing college and expected to have a certain set of prospects and now they don't. What can we do to keep the spirit up of the working community and get them back on track? And specifically in roles that still existed, right? The tech industry was still hiring, even though we went into this pandemic, there were still jobs happening. And there was still this potential, right? As more and more companies went online, our work became more and more important. And we wanted students to be that solution for these organizations, right? You guys already know how to, create CRM for business or solve business opportunities, business challenges using technology. Now, how can we take that talent that you have and pair you with the organizations that really need you now? And so what we did is we had originally our online academy was 10 weeks. We only met live in person 3 hours a week on Saturdays. And that went on for the 10-week period. And plus there was some homework. So the total program is around 50 hours. So we said, okay, now we have all these people home. We don't need to wait to Saturday to have a class. Let's accelerate this program, run it on a shorter schedule. So we reduced it to 5 weeks, and we have students meeting in live classrooms 2 hours a day. So that really changed our program from our drawn out model that was over 10 weeks into this accelerated model to take advantage of the opportunity that alumni and individuals in the tech industry were at home, right? So they need to skill up. They have the time now to kind of do things that maybe they've always wanted to do, but they didn't have the opportunity to do it because they were at work. So this environment where unfortunately many people were laid off opened another door for us to go out there and find that talent across multiple industries. People we probably would have never had the opportunity to target because maybe they're, in retail and they have, a schedule that doesn't accommodate learning or facilitate them taking the time for professional development. But we were really out there encouraging folks like, now's your time, that career pivot you've always wanted to make, that professional development you've always wanted to do for yourself, that networking you've always, thought about doing but never had the time to do. Now's that time. And we used the hashtag future is now. It became even more important during this time. So we definitely pivoted our strategies on a business standpoint to accommodate this new environment. And our classes are going extremely well. We have students getting certified. We have students landing jobs. It's been pretty incredible. And we're glad to see it. We're going into our third cohort in July. So we're running cohorts every 5 weeks to the end of this year. That's the commitment that we've made in this COVID environment. And things are looking great.
And for anyone listening that are inspired by everything that you're doing here and the help that you're providing to people when they most need it, how can those people listening, how can they access these free virtual Salesforce skills training programs and get involved and begin that pivot and take action?
Yeah, so there's two things. There's people who are now facing financial uncertainty and they want to reskill themselves. So we can be a resource to those people, right? Our programs are free to our students. We fundraise and we do other things to make sure that every student spot is completely paid for. So there is no cost to the student themselves to do the learning portion of our program, which is great, right? We help them get that certification. We help them with the training. And they can go online to PepUp Tech. So it's PEPUP Tech, TECH.org/courses. So under courses, you can look at our 2 career paths that we train for. So we train for Salesforce administrators who are looking to go into the for-profit sector. And we also train for Salesforce administrators that are looking to go into the nonprofit sector. So we do train for both very specific tech professional roles. And that's a great way for people who are really looking for this opportunity. Money is challenging and limited. They can do our program for free, have access to our network and our workforce support services, including help with the certification prep. And we actually give them the voucher to pay for the certification as well. So we're going back to what I said earlier, we're looking at removing barriers. When we started PepUp Tech, we were like, well, what are the things that are keeping people from doing it? 1, Salesforce training is expensive. 2, certifications are expensive. 3, I don't have the time. So we're kind of working all those angles to make sure that we're removing those barriers that keep people from entering tech. The second piece is for folks who are not unemployed, or maybe you're retired, or maybe you're not affected in the same way by what's happening in the economy, but you really feel a strong urge to give back to this population. We do look for people to come in as guest speakers, mentors, coaches. We have a lot of organizations, including one of our most recent partnerships with Women in Tech in Hollywood. So a lot of the big picture houses in California have started, the women at each of these organizations like Sony and Paramount and Disney, they've gotten together and started a coalition to help more women get into the tech industry. And so they've partnered with PepUp Tech, and they're doing a session for us this afternoon. It's 3 hours long, but they're working one-on-one with students in this big group environment where they do all these breakouts where they're helping with resume prep and, interview skills and teaching them about roles in the entertainment industry as it relates to tech. So we're always looking for people that want to take what it is that they've done and learned in their career and give back to the community. And there are lots of opportunities to do that and volunteer. If you visit us online, we have a contact us page up there, and we're happy to meet with anybody who is interested, regardless of where you're at in the world, who's interested in influencing and talking to this next generation of people who are committed to building their career in tech.
And it must be incredibly rewarding to see people come through the other side of these training programs. And on that point, how much of an impact do you see that the program is having on these students' livelihood and indeed their future career prospects too?
I mean, it's life-changing. We have, we have students who are incredibly talented, right? Like we're not asking for handouts. We're not this is not charity in the respect that most people think of when they think of a charity. Oh, I'm going to help, and I'm going to pour something into this student. When we first started this program, we were so excited. We're like, we're going to help all these students and it's going to be great. And, we're going to give them everything that we learned. And like, we're the ones who are learning from them. We go in and we teach them and we're just blown away. And we're so excited about where these students are going to take their careers, because they are, this is talent, right? We're talking about people who are talented, who have done the work. Many of them have been to college, or they've done training programs, or they have a long career, a steady career in a certain industry, and they're looking to make that first break. It's really exciting to meet somebody at that point in their career. Like, they're really excited, they're open, they're sponges, they're really wanting to understand how things work and how they can break in. And when you get a chance, an opportunity to spend some time with these people, some of our average age ranges is anywhere between, it's probably from about like 18 to 40 on average, but we don't have any maximum age cap. Our minimum age cap is 18 and over, but outside of that, there are no age bands. So you get the opportunity to see all these incredible people from so many different walks of lives. It's really, really inspiring. Even when we're overwhelmed by the amount of work that it takes to run PepUp Tech, myself and my staff, we will get a call from a student. It's like, I just got my first job, or, I just got hired at Bloomberg, or, Salesforce just offered me an opportunity. And you see the excitement, and that that's going to change their lives, right? Because now they can afford to buy the house for their family that they wanted, and they can put their children in after school programs, and, just basic things that improve the overall quality of their lives. And we're watching them grow over the years, and it's incredible. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better job, right? We get to every day influence the lives of people who deserve it. Like, these are people who really deserve the opportunity. And every time we see somebody make it, where it's, the saying goes, like, when one person wins, we all win. So it's almost like I feel like it's my own children winning, right? Every time they come with a success story, I'm incredibly inspired and happy for them. And it gives me that energy that I need to keep this thing going.
Love that. And I think it's also worth highlighting that Salesforce is huge, and a lot of people probably don't realize it. So can you tell me a little bit more about the power of the Salesforce ecosystem and how it can create so many opportunities for displaced workers? Because there is a lack of skills in this area, isn't there, that desperately need filling, and roles that need filling too.
There are. And, we are like in an industry that's like, a buyer's market, right? There's more jobs than there are people to do them. So I think the industry in general they're thankful for PepUp Tech, because we're another source of talent for them, right? They have a problem, and their problem is they need more people, right, to build their wonderful products and service their products and customer support and all the things that we need to keep the technology moving forward. We are an avenue for them, right? So we're solving a problem. We're at the right place at the right time. And, tech has been a strong vehicle for us to push this forward. And I think that, the way that we look at it from the PepUp Tech side is there's, inequality, not just in the technology industry, but just on so many different levels. And we see what's happening in the world today and how that's kind of playing out across the world. And this is a little light, right? It's a little light here where we are taking communities and we are empowering them with what they need to be self-sufficient, so that they can go back into their communities and they can improve their communities and improve their family structures. And we're just very fortunate that the Salesforce ecosystem is what it is. It's a huge ecosystem, and it's filled with people that want to help. Like, it's like nothing you've ever experienced. I've worked at different companies, and when I started working in the Salesforce ecosystem, the love that people have for each other and how everyone goes out of their way to help each other. Mark Benioff really got it right when he focused his organization on creating community, and people really wanting to go out there and help each other and help bring the next wave of technologists into the world. And I think that there are so many admins out there who got their start in a very similar way to what we're describing here, right? Maybe we didn't know about it, accidental admin, someone told us about it. We did a training program. And I think that Salesforce community has really, really stepped up. It's incredible to see. I don't know if PepUp Tech would have gotten the kind of momentum that it needed when we were starting off and as we were growing if it wasn't for that community stepping in, because they're the ones who come out to teach and mentor and volunteer and give back and hire the students, right? The community, they're the ones calling us like, I have this role, I want to give someone a chance, an opportunity. So it is that community, and that community is strong and it's worldwide. And it's the reason why organizations like Salesforce, like PepUp Tech can survive.
And for anyone listening to our conversation today that might be at the risk of redundancy right now, or just recently been made unemployed and looking for a career change, how tech savvy do they need to be to learn new skills with something like PepUp Tech? And do you have any successful success stories that just help people understand the kind of journey that they've been on and how anything's possible?
Yeah. So the great thing about Salesforce is that for our entry-level courses, anyone can step in and learn about what it is that we do and take that step and that leap to improve and grow their skills. Salesforce offers a lot of resources. So you have Trailhead, there's the online community. Within PepUp Tech, all we are looking for is that there is a desire to enter the tech industry. Like, because we can work with that. We can teach you the tech, but the desire to work in tech and, opting into a career in tech is really what you need. You don't have to be a technologist or computer science major to do our program. We're going to teach you everything that you need to know from the beginning to, what you need to know to land that first role. So we're not asking that you come in with any specific know-how. If you do have a background in Excel, it's helpful. If you don't, and, you take a Coursera course or something like that to kind of brush up your Excel skills, it's definitely helpful. But the most important thing is that desire. And that's what we look for. Underrepresented background, the desire to learn and be a part of this community is all that we're looking for. And we will take it from there.
Fantastic. And we are in a period at the moment of uncertainty and a lot of challenges and concerns, but there's also a lot of changes. And with that comes a lot of great opportunities. So to end on a positive note, what excites you about this new era in tech that you're helping to build?
Yeah, I think I'm excited that, doors are opening for more diversity. I think that that's going to allow us to see things and approach things from a different viewpoint that we may not have considered before. And that's important. So I think that's the first thing that's exciting to me. Secondarily, I see that there are so many industries. I've worked in education for a very long time. Even though I'm in tech, I still am in education because I'm teaching this next generation of software engineers. And my work revolves around the education of people interested in coming into tech. But when I look at the types of industries that are now making that transition, including education, it's inspiring. So my daughter goes to a school down here in Florida. When the whole COVID pandemic hit and the schools went on lockdown, they were struggling to figure out how to get online. Right. And I was excited to see, I went in and I helped them and we got everything online and we got them set up with Google Classroom and Google Sheets and all the things they need in Zoom. But I feel like education institutions in particular, as an example of one industry, was very hesitant to do things virtually. And I think that the future for us is a virtual world. There should be more opportunities for people to work remotely and not have to take that 2-hour commute to work. I feel like there are more efficiencies in many different ways. I'm a person that I've worked from home for the last 6 years. So I'm used to being home and I have the things in place that I need to be successful. And I know that when you give people autonomy, they can rise to the challenge. But, we're still kind of in that old way of thinking where everybody needs to be in the office and we increase our expenses because of it. And we don't give children the opportunity to have virtual learning experiences, even though that is the future, of our world and of corporate America. So I'm excited to see that more organizations are now opening their mind to what it means to bring some of your business virtual. Maybe, some industries may never be able to 100% become virtual, but it is nice to have that option and give people the flexibility. I think I'm most excited about that. When I had my youngest children, I was I had 8 weeks of maternity leave and I had to get back to work. And, I was commuting an hour and a half each way. And it was very challenging because I had my family at home, even though I worked in tech and could have totally done my job from home. But my company was just really averse to that. And I always thought like, there's so many workers out there that could benefit from some flexibility, people with children, right? And people who have, other responsibilities, maybe parents that they're caring for, relatives that they're caring for. And just that 1.5 hours each way every day, that's 3 hours back in your life where you could be adding value to the world and doing other things. And I think more companies need to be thinking about how to make sure that workers have, peace of mind, and it's not just professional development, but also personal development, right? And personal development is a part of professional development. When you're happy and you're feeling good and you're not stressed out about everything, you are a better worker. And I'm just glad to see that more organizations are now thinking that way. Salesforce, the company, and I worked for Salesforce for a few years, they've always been a leader in that, like giving employees autonomy and giving them flexibility. And they believed in work from home and, remote workers. That's always been embedded in the culture. But many corporations are slow to adapt that way of thinking because they think that the employees need to be right there with them in order for them to be successful. And I'm really excited about seeing what's happening in the tech industry now, because now that people are forced to make their business still work in this new environment, I think that some of these changes that we're seeing are going to be permanent. And I'm excited to see which ones will stick.
And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information, continue the conversation that we've started today and make those early steps and make that change and grasp those opportunities, what's the best way of them finding you online and contacting your team?
Yeah, the best way is just head over to our website. We're at PepUp Tech, so that's PepUpTech.org. You can find all of our contact information there, along with our board members. Anyone you want to reach out to at the organization, we're happy to hear from anyone that has thoughts. If you want to volunteer, if you have a role you're hiring for, you have any ideas for us that we should be doing and thinking about, we would love to hear from the community.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on here today. There is so much uncertainty in the world at the moment. It's making a lot of people incredibly anxious. But I cannot thank you enough for coming on here and being that change maker and providing a different narrative. You've shown me the power of the Salesforce ecosystem, but also the opportunities that exist for displaced workers and why tech skills matter and can make such a big difference, and also increase diversity in the workplace. It's win-win-win all round. So a big thank you for coming on and telling me your story today.
All right. Thank you so much.
And one stat when I was doing a bit of research was up to 600% more earning power, which really illustrates the power of the Salesforce ecosystem and the opportunities that exist for displaced workers and why tech skills matter more than ever. So this is a great opportunity, and I applaud Selina and her team for everything that they're doing there. But as always, let me know your thoughts. Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. And the winds of change will blow again tomorrow as I'll bring another guest on here to learn how we can make this world a better place and the role that technology has in that too. If that sounds like your kind of gig, I'll see you at the same time, same place tomorrow. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.